Welcome to the 149th broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. Got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
All right, we're going to go back to some basics today, just so that we can help people understand how this, when we're talking about certain things, they actually do understand what we're talking about, because it's very important to have a political view of the tripartite and what we're actually speaking about. We notice that some people really don't understand what we're saying. So in some areas, so we have to get that cleaned up a little bit. So basically what I'm going to do is, okay, here's Washington, D.C. I'm going to go over here. Just let me know if this doesn't switch over. If it doesn't switch over.
Okay.
All right. All right, a city-state, this is what a city-state is. It's a sovereign state, also described as a type of small independent country. Okay, so John, you're seeing that city-state?
Yes,
All right.
it's coming in loud and clear.
All right, that usually consists of a single city and its dependent territories. Historically, this includes cities as Rome, Athens, Carthage. Okay, so now, basically what you're saying, what they're saying here is a city-state can be within inside of a country and be its own country at the same time. Vatican City. Has anybody ever seen the Italy's president? Nobody knows what Italy is. Whenever they talk about Italy, they always go right directly to the Vatican. I don't even think anybody's ever seen Italy's parliament. The rest of the country. They just see Vatican City. Anybody knew that Italy is a communist country? Always has been. We shouldn't be doing business with them. They're a communist country. So when Russia was a communist country, we didn't do business with them. This Cold War was going on and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, nobody really seems to give a crap about Italy and Rome, because they're thinking, oh, it's just a bunch of guys that pray all the time. That's not the truth. A city-state is a sovereign state. Keep that in mind. All right, that was when I looked it up. Okay, now, the Residence Act of 1790, they call this, officially titled an act for establishing the temporary and permanent seat, and they call it the government of the United States of America, which is a corporation, was a United States federal statute adopted during the second session, the first United States Congress, signed into law by President George Washington. Okay, so, and they wanted and the act provided for a national capital. Okay, but they didn't say what it was. It just provided for a national capital. Notice it's not in there. It also set a deadline of December 1800 for the capital to be ready, and designated Philadelphia as the nation's temporary capital while the new seat of government was being built. At the time, the federal government was operating out of New York City. That tells you a lot right there, okay? Congress passed a Residence Act as part of a compromise brokered by James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, which was a piece of crap. Federal government, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now, that's just the Residence Act. If you look at Washington, D.C., they'll say, oh, it was formerly the District of Columbia, and commonly referred to as Washington, D.C. or D.C. is the capital of the United States, which is absolutely not true at all. That's a full, bold-faced lie. Okay? Washington, D.C. is a city-state. See the flag right here? It's three different flags. It's a military branch. 3 different stars. One is Vatican City, Washington, D.C., and the City of London. I'll tell you the difference between the City of London here in just a few, because that's what we're going to be concentrating on tonight. Okay, so it has 3 different, this is called the tripartite. Each one of these stars represents a city-state. That would be Washington, D.C. The District of Columbia is just a district where the United States of America, lowercase t, meets in Washington, meets in the District of Columbia as the U.S. Congress or Congress of the United States. They used to be called Congress of the United States, and they changed it to U.S. Congress. Okay, so the District of Columbia is nothing more than just a meeting place. It's a district. Washington, D.C. and the district have nothing to do with each other, because Washington, D.C. is a city-state, military branch. And we've gone through deeper on who runs them and all that in past broadcasts. But we just wanted to show you that there is a difference. Now, people think this is the crown. This is what they're talking about when they're saying the crown of England. That's not what they're talking about. This is just this lady's hat, okay? It's not the crown. It says, what is the difference between London and the city of London? Look at the devil's tail out of this one, right? Anyone coming to the UK capital may be confused to hear that the city of London and London are not the same thing. Essentially, there are two Londons, Greater London and the City of London, otherwise known as a city or the square mile. So it's a city-state that claims a square mile. That's it. Completely separate, autonomous country. Here's everything you need to know about the difference between London and the City of London. First, let's talk about the London everyone knows, Greater London, or London, and it's more commonly known. It's not only the capital city of the United Kingdom, it's also a county that covers a total area of 607 square miles and incorporates 32 boroughs as well as the City of London. We'll come to that in a second. All right, presiding over London and its 8.5 million strong population, including the City of London, is the Greater London Authority, which is based in City Hall and consists of the Greater London Assembly and the Mayor of London, currently Sadiq Khan. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to the City of London. And it has its origins in fortified Roman settlement of Londinium, which was erected roughly 2,000 years ago on the northern bank of the River Thames and came to encompass 1 square mile within its walls. Let me read that one more time. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to the City of London. It has its origins in the fortified Roman settlement of Londinium, which was erected roughly 2,000 years ago on the northern bank of the River Thames and came to encompass 1 square mile within its walls. It is for that reason, or this reason, that despite the City of London actually covering an area of 2 square miles, Londoners still affectionately refer to it as the square mile. Okay, marked with cast iron dragons in the street. The boundaries of the City of London stretch north from Temple and the Tower of London on the River Thames to Chancery Lane in the west of Liverpool Street in the east, while the city only has 10,000 residents, 400,000 daily commuters who work in buildings like the Gherkin and Cheese Grater and the Walkie Talkie, and 10 million annual tourists help keep the square mile alive and thriving. Yeah, they keep the square mile alive and thriving, okay? Okay. Although it falls under the jurisdiction of Greater London and the GLA, the City of London has a special status. It has its own government and its own mayor and its own independent police force. The City of London Corporation operates from the Guildhall and is composed of the Lord Mayor of London, the Court of Aldermen, and the Court of Common Council. While the Lord Mayor of London may have a fancier title, the outfit, the Mayor of London wields significantly more political power. And this is this kind of crap right here. Okay, they're the 2,000 years old here. Yeah, it keeps it alive and thriving. Yeah, because they don't have any money. They're broke. One of the main functions of the City of London is representing the interest of Britain's financial services. Holy crap. Okay. The city is home to the Bank of England and has traditionally been considered the financial heart of the UK. No, my friends, what that is the financial heart of basically all the West countries and most of the Eastern countries. Okay? They're the financial heart of everything. They're 2,000 years old. Australia, the United States, Washington, D.C., Vatican City. They're the financial center everywhere. They're the ones that control the U.S. stock market. However, it has lost its place as the biggest employer of bankers in Europe and East London's Canary Wharf in recent years. No, it hasn't. What they do is they say, "Oh, well, we're not, we're just poor," and they always show weakness. It's because they're a small country. They're very small. It's only 2 miles square. So, since being so small, they always have to show weakness, so that if you become an aggressor, you look like the biggest asshole on the planet because you went after this little teeny country and you plummeted the damn thing. So they always show a weakness. That's how they do things. Washington, D.C., it always shows a weakness. Oh, we have nothing to do with the Pentagon. We have nothing to do with the nuclear weapons. We've got nothing to do with the military at all. We're just a little tiny little city. And Vatican comes out and says, "Oh, all we do is worship God here. That's it. We're just we're humble and what is that? Oh yeah, Buddhist. We're accepting. All right, but they're the three biggest tyrants in the world. That's the problem. Despite Brexit and the threat it poses to capital financial preeminence, the financial crown of Europe still rests dubiously on London's head. That's all BS because it actually has its own country. You can't be under the subject of London and have your own country. It doesn't work that way. They're their own country. And these are the guys that fork out all the law or all the financial laws. This little teeny country is the one that produces the lawyers or the International Bar Association. They're the ones that come over to this country or actually produce the lawyers in this country. Because when I called the Bar Association of Chicago, I think it's Chicago or Michigan, I asked them. I said, if I were to sue the bar, who do I go to? In other words, who's ahead of them, or who's ahead of this bar? In other words, who runs it? And the woman says, "Oh, well, they're all autonomous. They're all independent bar associations." I said, "Oh, okay. So they don't have a boss, or are they held in trust, or what? What's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the International Bar Association. That's in the city of London." So I checked it out, and it was in the city of London. At the time I asked those questions, I didn't even know that there was a tripartite. I didn't know that there was a three-city state. Didn't even know city states could exist. Didn't know anything about that at the time. I made this phone call back in the 90s. So what I'm saying here is this: the city of London is the financial center, and they're also the lawyers that are controlled all over the world by this one little tiny, teeny, tiny financial center. A little 2 square mile that is causing hell on earth. This is their deal. When the Rothschild wants something, what he's got to do is this: if he sees something he wants, he goes and gets his lawyers, and they send their police out. Their police. That's what you're seeing now. When you see a sheriff, he works for the lawyers. He doesn't work for you. Just understand that. The police, they don't work for the city. They work for the lawyers. They don't work for you. When they see something, they'll go out and investigate and find something to bust the guy on. Then they confiscate all his crap. They confiscate what they want. They wait till the trial's over. It's called civil forfeiture. Who do you think came up with civil forfeiture? That would be these guys right here. I'll just put a little hand right there on the hand marker, just to point at this little prick. Okay? They're the ones that came up with it. Okay? They didn't come up with the internet. They just want control of it. They didn't come up with cryptocurrency. They just want control of it. They steal it under civil forfeiture. They grab it, put it back in place, and they control it. That's how Rothschilds and all them have been working for years. That's how they twist the law to where they twist things. Now, I ask you, who gave them the authority over money? Well, this is what they claim. They claim that Jerusalem, the Thames, or this city of London controls or has that jurisdiction. And they're saying that they can create money and have control of money through the blood of Christ. That everything is prepaid so that but you're not supposed to be a part of that. So you're not a part of that at all because you're not of the city of London. See, that's how they did this. That's 2,000 years old. You're only 50 to 100 years old. So if that's the case, then you're just passing by. When they have the wrong Jerusalem, by the way. They have the wrong New Jerusalem. They claimed that it was the blood of Christ that they're talking about New Jerusalem, making all things new. And that's not true. I didn't say that what they're claiming is not true because they have the wrong place. They have the wrong Jerusalem. You see, when you have a New York, the New York is in a different place than York. So when you hear that movie, with Mel Gibson in there, and they sacked York, William Wallace, and he sacks York. That's York. Then they had New York, which was in a completely separate area. You have Jersey, then you have New Jersey. Okay? Hampshire and New Hampshire. Different place in the world. So you can't have Jerusalem and New Jerusalem in the same place. That's the flaw. You were going to say something, John? Thought I heard you.
No, I was muted out.
Okay. That's the flaw in their thinking. They didn't know that there was a reign of the heavens country. They didn't know any of that stuff. So obviously, someone withheld some information from them. So when you see all these wars being financed, see where that little hand is right there? That's the guy that does it. You confront him with that. Oh, no, I don't do any of that. We're just a small country. We're just little guys. We're just little people. Don't pick on the little people. We're just a little country. We only have 400,000 people that come in and out. They're all bankers, financiers, lawyers, all that stuff, causing havoc all over the world. Instead of doing good things for the world, they plummet the world. That's what they have. Deep state, warmongers over here. Deep state people that are trying to destroy the country. If we can't have it, nobody can have it. That kind of guy. Okay, the Satanist that loves bloodlust and the money that comes from it, the evil that comes from that. They also promote Baal Peor, Baalpeor. Baal Peor. Go look it up and what Baal Peor is. You'll see that all over this country here. So you see, they're very arrogant because they're 2,000 years old. At least that's what they're claiming. We don't know for sure if that's true or not, but you never know. But either way, they're still controlling the finances of the world. And when you control the finances of the world, you're controlling the events of the world. And when you're doing that, you become liable for everything that happens. So therefore, the liability, you ever heard of Lloyd's of London? That's these guys. They're the ones that are the started the Lloyd's of London insurance. High, what do you call it? It would be high liability type, situations where nobody else is going to insure you. You go to Lloyd's of London, you go to them, and they'll insure you and all that, and high premiums and all that kind of crap, of course. But that's just how they are. So that's where your insurance scam came from. That's where all the insurance over here came from. And now, if you don't have insurance, you go to jail. See, so for some reason, this guy right here that you're looking at, he's the one that if you end up going to jail because you have your insurance lapsed, it's because of him. He made that law that if you don't have your insurance and all that, then you go to jail. He's the one that did that. He's the one that made it a privilege for you to drive. That guy right there. He's the one that pushed the Dharma with the Indians. He's the one that's been pushing that over your airwaves. He's the one that finances it. So the guys in the stock market, they were just pig farmers, selling off pigs. That was it. That's why you have a piggy bank. That's where it comes from, piggy bank. And this guy here was the one that offered these services and things like that to everybody. Okay, and he's the one that he's the one that I believe took over the India's bank during the British invasion or occupation over there. You see, that's the guy that did that. The British occupation of India, and then kept control of their bank after he left. So all he had to do was control the bank. Didn't have to control anything else. You control the Bank of India, you control India. Now you look at China over here trying to censor us over here. This was funny. I think the leader of the country is his name is his name is spelled XI. I call him number 11. I'm hoping that'll catch on. Number 11. The XI Roman numerals 10 and 1. But anyways, they're the ones that were taken over by the Brahma. China is actually a conquered country. People don't know that about them, but they are. They're a conquered country by the Brahma or by the Buddhists. And believe it or not, the funny part about this is China doesn't even know it. They have Buddhism and they have Buddha. They probably don't even know where it came from. I don't think anybody's gone back that far into their history, but India actually took them over a long time ago. India runs China. Okay, so that's why these little communist regimes keep popping up in China, and then while these little, little emperors and stuff like that keep popping up because they're rebelling. They just don't know what they're rebelling against. They don't realize that they're conquered and taken over by India itself. We talked about that last week. So whenever you have a financial issue, a financial crisis, when you ever have any financial problems, it's been reported that they have an underground banking system called the Beast. It's actually underground within basements and things like that that run the financial systems of the world. And they look, stupid according to me, in public with all this BS and crap that they've got, all this flair they want to call it. But that'll show you actually where the English soldier and the British East India Trading Company got his uniform. If you think about it, that's very familiar with that. I mean, it looks real familiar. And now they're trying to overrun the world with crypto. They're the ones that are pushing, these guys here are the ones that are pushing the cryptocurrency to where they want to have a social score. That's why they have Credit Karma. That's your credit score. And then they keep throwing in this, the Credit Karma keeps changing. First, you can check your credit anytime you want on Credit Karma. Now the commercials are changing to, if your credit score was higher, you'd have a nicer car, you'd have a nicer this, you'd have a nicer that. The only way to do that is to be a good boy and girl. And these are the same guys that claimed you to be a minor. But you need to be in Dharma and accept that. See, that's how they operate. Accept their BS. They claim that you were a minor and you can't handle your own affairs. Well, we have evidence that after oaths and affirmations are taken, we're no longer minors. We are managers of our own account, of our own incunubulus account, which is incunubulus means anew, which means we go directly to Jesus, bypass the whole city-state, bypass these guys. After one of our guys took an oath, all of the obligations he had were completely zeroed out. Everything he had. I believe we also have one of them here that was showing him in a class last night. Let me go ahead and get it. Okay, I think that's the wrong one. Okay. That should be it right there. Can you see that, John? The photo?
Not yet.
There we go.
Not yet.
Okay, how about now?
Nope. Now you can.
Okie dokie. So basically what happens here is this is what we mean by an agent for the United States. The United States, through the Treaty of Paris itself today, like in New York City and Manhattan Island, that's why you're the what?
I say you lost your voice.
Okay.
You're okay now.
All right. But the state of Michigan is the collection agent for the United States. That's Manhattan Island. Now, who runs and controls Manhattan Island? Rothschild and Bank of England and the City of London. That's who controls all that because it's its own city-state. So the state of Michigan over here, now these are two obligations that once this guy went through his whole process, ended up being a one charge off here and one charge off there. That was $8,463 and $4,850. That was back child support. Okay, so there you go. If you take your oath, you become an adult over the age of majority, or become a part of the age of majority. Become an adult, not a minor, and you control your account. As long as you control it, everything's just fine. If you lose that thinking and way of thinking and start becoming a minor again, then they'll start regulating you again. This is just a service that is provided. That's why when you don't have any social compact that created things, it's just a service provided by the bankers. You see, the state of Michigan, and don't worry about the all cap name there, Patriots, just listed that way. All right. the state of Michigan is the collection agent. And the courts and the lawyers are the collectors. They're just collecting a debt. All of it's about money because it goes all the way back to the city of London and the financiers. If you're not going to control your own account, you're not going to take an oath or affirmation to your country. You're not going to take on the responsibility of a resident declaration and take on the responsibility of a social compact and handle your own affairs. You're going to be treated like a minor. And the bankers are going to come in and they're going to set up things for you, like services, like sheriff services and police services and all this other crap that they put in. They work for the city of London, the financial part, because all they care about is money. They're not going to risk their life for you. They risk their life for a paycheck. That's the way it works. They're just getting paid to do what they do. If they didn't get paid and they didn't get perks and all this other kind of crap, they wouldn't do it. So if that's the case, that's why you're getting the problems you're having, because you failed to handle your own affairs. You have to have a resident declaration through the United States of America. You have to have a social compact. You have to do business as something, which you change your name. And then you handle those affairs. You learn how to handle those affairs instead of thinking that you know how to do it. You have to forget pretty much everything you've learned because you weren't taught anything in high school. College definitely didn't teach you anything. And you do things, and the way you do things just screws you up. It constantly turns it right back into something else. And believe me, I stopped yelling about it. And I stopped yelling at people about it because it didn't do any good whatsoever to worry about that. If one day they'll figure it out, type deal. And because you don't handle your own affairs, they put people in place and they change the way that your country operates. Now, here was I believe this was the Trump, after the Trump campaign rally. Okay, can you see that, John?
Yes, sir.
All right, here's the Trump campaign rally. You have, this is Ilhan Omar's dude that she's doing right here. And that's Ilhan right there. Right there, side by side with Antifa, a terrorist organization. Now, if you don't blame me or believe me, that's fine. No problem. Here was her daughter at the same event. Right there with Antifa. Okay, that's what's happening in Washington, D.C. They're just collection agents, guys. That's it. And they're collecting fees for services. You don't pay your child support, they're hired there as collection agents. They're a bank. That's been proven over and over again. But you have to understand where it comes from in order to understand, or understand that that's a city state and that's completely separate from anything else that you see, and understand that it's 2,000 years old. It has nothing to do with the Queen of England. Hell, the Queen of England is City of London's bitch. It's where she gets her money. They've made her rich. Okay? So there you go. All right, so apparently these people, Ilhan and this guy here, knows what Washington, D.C. is and knows what the District of Columbia is. So everybody would look at this and say, oh, well, that's just crazy. Why is she involved? A congressional representative? It's because it's a collection company. Why would you send a military over to another country? To collect a debt. That's how you do it. It all deals with money. Country owes you money. They don't pay up. You send the military over to collect. That's how it works. Okay? Now, this is what it costs you. Serve your country. You want to serve your country well. Okay, we're going to show you what it's going to cost you. All right, we got to make this real clear. We're not talking about taking an oath to the United States and the Constitution of the United States. We're not talking about claiming to be one of we the people. You can claim to be one of we the people all day long, but if you didn't sign the social compact that created it, you're not one of the we the people. That's just the law. I don't make that up. Go read the Law of Nations. That's what did all of this. Okay, that's just the way it is. You're not a signatory to it. And people go around claiming to be we the people all the time. They're full of it. I don't care if you're Catholic or not. It doesn't matter. The Pope doesn't make you one of the we the people. You have to have an explicit social compact that you signed. And here's the terms and conditions. And that's it. Then you go to the meeting. And you talk about what the representatives are going to do. Okay, that's a real country. The United States doesn't do that. That's why I said it is not a country. It's a collection agency. So if you take an oath to the 1789 Constitution, you're a perpetual minor for the rest of your life. Why? Because that's what the three city-state empire said you were. That's the way it works. However, if you want to go collect for people or collect for them, you get to watch this.
I have to sign letters. It's the hardest thing I have to do. I sign letters. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith from Arkansas. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Jones from Alabama. Dear Mr. and Mrs. somebody from some great state. I'm sorry to inform you, your son has been killed in combat. I'm so sorry. It's the hardest thing that I have to do. And I sign those letters, and it just breaks your heart. And sometimes I go out to a place, Dover Air Force Base. It's a very tough experience. We go out there, and we meet the parents and the families, the wives, the children, the sisters, the brothers. We meet them, and we talk to them. These things are just impossible. I don't know how parents can do it, even. And I'll be talking to some of the parents, and they'll act like they're fine. I said, how are you doing? We're fine, sir. We're fine. We're really good. I said, that's great. And I'll tell the colonel, I'll say, Colonel, I think they're doing great. No, sir, they're not going to do great. You'll see. And I didn't know what he was talking about. This is the first time. And then we went outside to the runway, and this incredible machine is flying in, and it lands, and it comes over, and it pulls up. That door opens up, and the colonel told me, he said, sir, when that door opens up, those same people that you think are okay do things that you'll never see. You will hear sounds like you've never heard. That's what he does. And I saw that door open up with a coffin, with a flag over it. And these beautiful soldiers, 5 or 6 on each side, lifting the coffin and walking down the runway, the plank they call it, off this cargo plane. And I see parents make sounds, scream and cry like you've never seen before. A mother who was fine 20 minutes ago, you think, breaking the military line and jumping off, and then jumping onto a coffin of her son or her daughter. Jumping on top of the flowers, on top of the American flag. I've seen this. We were supposed to be in Syria for 30 days. We've now been there for 10 years. We were supposed to be in Afghanistan for a short period of time. We're now going to be there for close to 19 years. It's time to bring them home. It's time to bring them home. Bring our troops back home.
Thanks for listening to the 149th broadcast of the T Row Show. We hope you learned something tonight. We'll see you next week.